So yeah, we have a pretty busy agenda today. So I will be very quick on the introduction part because I think most of you have been part of the previous committee. So the goal here is still to be as much transparent as possible to explain what we're doing on Strapi v5. And we are almost starting, like we'll have a beta soon. So this is where you're gonna really, I think, help us by commenting and testing the alphas, the betas version of Strapi. And also the goal of this group is to spread as much knowledge about Strapi within the community. Again, same context as usual. While we're doing Strapi v5, we have to introduce breaking changes. We want also to match industry standards in terms of technology use, such as TypeScript or Vite for the modeling parts. And we also want to create a better migration story compared to before. We know how difficult it was. That's pretty much it for the scope of Strapi v5. It's still the same. Even it's gonna change a bit, but yeah, TypeScript, we will migrate all the code base on TypeScript. We are gonna fix 30 major issues. It's gonna include draft and publish and content history as new features. Yeah, we'll support Vite and we'll have a new content API format. So we are gonna get rid of the v4 API format, which was a bit too verbose sometimes. Yeah, I think everyone's gonna like this slide. So we plan to have a beta, like a closed engineering beta for the end of February. That's the current line at ETA. So this beta is not going to be, it's going to work, of course, but we'll miss some part of features such as draft and publish. So the goal for us is to have an internal ETA to release that, to set a milestone, but we'll expect you to test mostly the public beta that we expect to be released on March 13th. It's still it's the first estimation. It could be released the next week, like on the 20th of March. But yeah, that's the current line for the public beta. We decided also to change the name, to stop calling it release candidate, because we're still gonna introduce maybe some breaking changing following this public beta, and some features such as reworkflows, ITA, and some other features like audit logs won't be migrated for the public beta on v5. So we want to be careful here and call this as a public beta instead of a release candidate. And for the stable version, we still aim to release it in early mid-June to let enough time for the ecosystem, the plugins contributors to migrate their plugins on v5. Maybe I will pause here, and if there are any questions, feel free to raise your hand. Yeah, go Eric.
Okay, so two questions, and hopefully I didn't miss it. But first one is, you mentioned that draft and publishing wasn't going to be in the betas. I'm assuming by it's stable, those features would be re-added back in as like core features.
Sorry, yeah, we already have like a draft and publish system, so it will still be there, but we have a new draft and publish system where you can have both version in parallel. So okay. Maybe Josh or Parody, you can jump in and give more details.
Yeah, so this is the long pending enhancement on draft and publish, as Aranya mentioned. So it will, even in the UI, as you may have seen in the previous community calls, you would have two dedicated tabs in the edit view, one for draft and one for the published version. So it in essence changes the way the heartbeat of the content manager works. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Second question is, again, I may have missed it, but I just want to double confirm. When, as a plugin developer, when would I receive access to be able to test it? Would that be beta or public beta?
Public beta.
I'd probably do the public beta. We estimate to have as many breaking changes as possible done for the public beta, and it used to be called a release candidate, but we still kind of got that mindset. So I would public beta I'd aim for.
Excellent. Third final question. When public beta is made available, will there be a list of the breaking changes that I can punch down on? Okay, cool. Derek's shaking his head in approval, which basically means I'm asking all the right questions.
Yeah, that was a very big pain point that we identified from the V3 to V4 side, and I've been following the documentation team on this, and Pee-wee can probably chime in, but we have a dedicated breaking change page now, and it's required for all the engineers to notify the documentation team about those breaking changes. So he's been progressively building that list. Pee-wee, I don't know if you have a link to the one that we're currently working on that we could share, but I've been reading through as he's been adding stuff, and it is fantastic. So
yeah, nothing. Thanks, Derek. Nothing public right now, but it's on in the repo. We have the v5/MVP branch that's going to be deployed on a specific website on the public data date, basically. So it will be on docs-next.strapi.io. So we'll get you covered.
Awesome. Thank you.
Welcome.
I think we can move on to the next slide. So yeah, that's where we are. So that's our internal timeline. The TypeScript migration, 80% is done. We're gonna finish migrations, but right now our focus is draft and publish, of course, and the content API and all those things. I think Alex on the call, but I think we're gonna, for the public beta, we'll have the new content API format for REST. Not sure if GraphQL is gonna be 100% finished.
Yeah, we mentioned it in the last call for those that weren't here. I believe the plan, and Alex will be able to confirm later on, but for REST, we're removing the attributes. As far as I'm aware, we're still keeping the data and errors objects, but we're just getting rid of the nested attributes object. So everything will be flattened like it was in V3.
And just to add to that, there's some public RFC that we can share if you've not seen them already that will probably give more information as well.
Small thing about the branding. So that's why I wanted to mention that this group is to share the knowledge. Like we would like, and the marketing team decided like to call Strapi 5 and not Strapi V5 anymore. Why? Like some reason it looks more modern, it's clearer, easier to read, and certainly like to market. So don't be surprised if we stop saying Strapi V5 and we say Strapi 5 as a name. And on the website, it's how it's going to be called right now. It doesn't mean that we were still following the same ver. We can still call it Strapi V5 when talking between engineers, etc., or in the community, but we will market it with Strapi 5. So don't be surprised about this. Yeah, upgrade tool. So that's the demo of today. Christian is in the room, but everything has been pre-recorded. So as you know, like the migration path from V3 to V4 was difficult, and we want to avoid that this time. So we are building, and we will provide a tool. We call it the upgrade tool. Will be a CLI that allows you like to manage the upgrade and all the dependencies and all the code mods in a simple way. So it integrates a script, data migration script, and it's going to be run once the application starts. For the first time on V5, of course. It's going to be also compatible with the cloud. So people using the cloud will be able to enjoy this feature. So of course, they will have to first update their code locally, push the code, and once it's going to be run and deployed on Strapi Cloud, the code will be updated. So that's how it's going to work. The goal is to make sure that Strapi Cloud is fully compatible with Strapi 5 once Strapi 5 is released in June. I think it's time for the demo. So you will tell me if you can hear the sound. I don't know if I can control the. Yeah. Can you hear the sound?
First of all, I'm so
Yes,
sorry for not
we
being
can.
live. I know it's really funny to see someone suffering the demo effects, and today it's not gonna happen. At this moment, I will probably be teaching English to some kids in my town because I'm taking care of my sister's students. Well, it's a long story that ended up becoming an emergency, so I'm so sorry about that. These kids have like a level 4 of English, and hopefully after my class they will reach level 5. And actually, this process of taking the kids' English level from 4 to 5 reminds me of something that we've been working on for the past couple of months in the developer experience squad, to convert a V4 project into a V5 project. Well, we didn't call it English lesson, obviously, we called it upgrade tool, and it's awesome. It's awesome that the people involved in creating the V5, who are awesome. They are doing an amazing job at creating breaking changes for improvement reasons. And yes, who's going to clean up that mess? Who's going to help users running V4 projects update to V5 frictionless? The developer experience squad. Let's say, for example, I don't want to point anyone, but Ben doesn't like SQLite package to work with SQLite databases. And he doesn't like any other package that is not better SQLite 3 because he claims that it's better and users should only use that one. Well, then you should know that a lot of Strapi users are not using better SQLite 3. So we better help them doing that migration for them, modifying their package.json dependencies, removing whatever package they use for working with SQLite databases, and replacing it with better SQLite 3. How do we do that? Well, come with me to the VS Code editor and I'll show you. If you come to the utils, we should see a new package that we are going to deploy when we launch v5, and it's going to be callable through npx. I don't have access to npx and I'm going to be using it in some other way, but in the end you will get the point. So inside the upgrade tool, the upgrade package, we have a resources folder with a code mods folder inside. These code mods have to be organized because we've implemented a tool that is meant to stay and not only to be used for upgrading to v5, but also can be useful if we happen to have to do any code migration in a minor version too. Let's say, for example, that when we are about to release 5.1, we realize that using console logs produces a huge security vulnerability in Strapi projects. We can create a code mod that replaces all the console logs found in the Strapi project for something like console.info that is run only when you are updating to v5.1 and not when you are updating from v4.16 to 4.17, let's say. But coming back to the topic. For organizing our code mods, we just create a folder with the version name where the code mods we want to run belong. For example, when we want to migrate to 4.16.2, we want to run these couple of code mods. This SQLite thing is supposed to run in v5, but well, this is just a demo. So as you can see, we have two code mods that are going to be executed on the migration to 4.16.2. I am currently in 4.15.5. If I wanted to go directly to v5, I would have an error because I need to be in the latest minor version in order to upgrade to the latest major version. Let's dive in the code a little bit to see how is this implemented. Well, I know that a lot of people here are probably in the engineering team and they are going to be implementing some code mods in the future. So I would advise you to keep an eye on this README file, and then we are using JS Code Shift under the hood. So please take a look at it if you have doubts, because it can be pretty tricky. Code mods are really easy to understand, but pretty difficult to write. In this example, for example, we have the console log to console.info, and keep an eye on the extension that we use. We use .code.ts. Why? Because we are going to be targeting just code files with this. If we are meant to be writing a code mode to execute on JSON files, we use the extension .json.ts. In this case, .code.ts, we will affect to all the code, and we are going to be looking for a call expression for console log, and then we are going to replace the property name log to info. That's it. And for that we need 37 lines. Well, that's life. Then we have the SQLite 3 to better SQLite 3.json.ts, and for that it's not okay that it runs in every single file. We need to target the package JSON that is at the root. And if we find that we are running this in another file that is not the package JSON, we just return the file as it is without modifying anything. Otherwise, if we are in the package.json, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to look for these target properties, for these dependencies. And if they are installed, if they have this old SQLite dependency, we are going to remove them. And we are going to install, we're going to create an attribute, better SQLite 3, and we are going to use the 9.0.0 version. So again, refer to the documentation if you have to create one, or use ChatGPT like we are all doing in Strapi, I guess. I don't know. That's what I did. So if we want to update to the next minor version, to the latest minor version, remember that we are in 4.15.0, we execute the upgrade tool and we target the minor version. Execute. Put some elevator music. Okay, yeah, and here we have a requirement. If you see that I'm not using a clean repository because I'm a badass, so I have this warning saying, hey, this is an optional requirement, but you should have a clean Git repository before upgrading. I'm like, I don't care, just continue. It's going to install the dependencies. Hey, check. We don't have SQLite 3 anymore. We have better SQLite. And I had somewhere here console.log, and now it's a console.info. As we see in the summary of the affected files, we see that our script console.log to console.info affected one file, and the JSON one SQLite 3 to better SQLite 3 affected one file. If we wanted to run this process again, but targeting now that we are in the latest minor version, the latest major version, which is B5, well, when this comes out, it's going to be B5, we will execute major. What's the problem? But that in the npm registry, we don't have any V5 version. So we don't have any version in the range 4.16.2 to 5.0. That's why we get this error. Now, other options that we have, if we want to execute this, we would have some help functions that, well, some options that will help us maybe understanding what's going on under the hood. We can execute this in dry mode so that we don't update actually any files, but we simulate the upgrade. Then we can specify a package to the Strapi project. In this case, I didn't have to because I'm already in the get started project. If we want to say yes to every prompt that we have, for example, if I want to make sure that I skip all the optional requirements, I'm just gonna put this flag. If I don't want any logs, I will put a silent mode. I think you get the point. So the last option that I wanted to showcase is something that is quite useful too, because I don't know how many of you have faced the issue of upgrading a project, a Strapi project from V3 to V4, but the script was running all like in one piece, and if you have one single line failing, all the migration scripts will fail because it was just one long script. Here we wanted to prevent that, and if for some reason you have a highly customized project and you want to be able to select which code modes you want to run, you have an option that is upgrade code modes. And here you can see all the available code modes for the current major version. If I wanted to execute only the console log to console.info, let me come here and put a console log here and continue, I will be able to do it, and I will just execute that. As you can see, we have console.info here. Yeah, I think this is all. So I will throw the potato again to Marco. Thank you very much for paying your time and for paying attention, and see you around. Bye bye.
Yeah, I'm Marco Remy. I'm Christian. I think there's a lot of questions, so maybe like the team can answer them.
Please don't be afraid to speak up too if you have questions.
Yeah, Lawrence, go ahead.
Yeah, I run a lot of code in a plugins folder. I have pretty much everything in plugins. So will this work in my plugins folder as well?
Yeah, it should.
Yeah, go ahead, Dev.
I was wondering if you could just if it's only possible to update to like the latest V5 version, or if it can like specify if we want to migrate to a different version of V5, like after the initial release, like if it's stated down the line.
I didn't quite catch that. Your mic seems a little far away.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if we could specify what version of V5 we could upgrade to, like thinking in like a long-term perspective.
He's, as far as I understand JS, I think he's asking if you, when you're upgrading V5, can you skip 5.0.0 and go to like say 5.4.1 or something directly?
I'm not sure anymore about how we implemented this for now, but this is something that could change in the future. For now, I think it updates you to 5.0.0, like the first version of the next major, but that's something that could change before we release it. depending on like what could be the most convenient option. So yeah, nothing fixed.
Any other questions?
Oh, wow. I think this tool is going to be so useful for the migration compared to the V4 one. That's amazing. I want to go to the next slide. That's perfect. So what's next? So yeah, the goal is to make this tool working on of course, the beta version of Strapi, so especially the public betas. It's done. All of this has been done, GS? That's a good news. Surprise. Wow, that's so nice. So yeah, because we did that demo internally like 2 or 3 weeks ago, but I didn't know like everything was done because Marco, the PM in charge, is off for a few days or maybe weeks. So that's why. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like we are monitoring and doing our best like to make sure this tool is going to be adopted by the community. And I think one of the goal of this public beta is to make sure that it works and we can start having some project or some people starting migrating their project on the beta. That's it. Do we have a lot of time, I think, for the Q&A today?
Yeah, we can open it to any questions that you have about V5 because we do have some new people here. So
yeah,
that's for you, JS and Christian. And just for the recording, can plugins also do upgrades through the tool?
I would say no at the moment. Right now it's just the code inside the Strapi.
Yeah, so for now, what we're doing is that we are expecting to be inside a Strapi project, so with a package.json and a Strapi dependency. So for the plugin, I'm afraid it's not. I mean, it won't be possible for now, at least for those that are standalone. Because if you have your plugins inside your Strapi application, it should work. That's something that we can maybe try to think about here.
At the very least, and there's still some unconfirmed information as far as I'm aware, but there should be some textual documentation, I believe, on migrating plugins, and we'll be working through that throughout the process. One of the current plugins that we have, the documentation plugin, we're actually going to stop maintaining it ourselves, and we're letting a community maintainer take over it. So I believe Alex is going to be working with them. So if they have questions during that particular plugin migration, we can take all of those references and keep notes of them, and then use that to then help build out some of the plugin migration documentation. So yeah, that's the Swagger Docs one. Yep. Any other questions? Nothing, huh?
Is it a good news or bad news?
That's good news, I think. Silence is good.
So there aren't any database migrations?
So there are going to be some database migrations. It's not going to be as complex as what we had in V3 to V4 because we've more or less kept similar database structures. There'll be some changes, and Josh, I think you may have more information on this with relation to draft and publish, but instead of doing the external database migration script is honestly where we run into a lot of problems, even still, for people coming from V3. When the V5 application boots, all of those data migration scripts are directly built into the application. So it'll be able to detect any older database structures and automatically migrate them when the application boots. So it makes the data migration process so much easier.
In regard of TypeScript support, is there any sort of migration for migrating the current JavaScript project into TypeScript? Or
by that, do you mean like automatically applying types and that kind of stuff, or just like having a JS project from a JS project?
Since 90% of Strapi is auto-generated, like a lot of the projects I'm working on is basically the Strapi code. So if there was a way to just take the content types and convert it into a TypeScript file, like
I mean, for now we don't really have any hands-off solution for this. I mean, the best that we can do for now is just like just creating a TS config and like moving every files to TS with like a non-strict approach and iteratively applying types. But for the project, we don't really have any migration tool for converting JavaScript to TypeScript because that would require like a lot of time to do so, especially because we are still refining all the typings to have a good TypeScript experience. So yeah.
What types can be expected? Like, would there be types for content types?
Yeah,
Various content types.
Yeah, like sorry, the goal for now is to provide as much type as possible for the main part of Strapi. So whether it's all the domain stuff like the content types, the components, the filters and everything, or our own internal APIs such as the entity service and stuff. So we are trying to provide as many types as possible for this, and then iteratively apply the typings to all of our other APIs. So right now we should already have some types for the content types, like it should already be available in V4. But we'll keep improving that. I mean, we are only halfway here regarding TypeScript support. So,
okay. Thank you.
It's a side question from me to you or UJS or Christian, but in theory, could we get the upgrade tool to have specific code mods that are independent of a version, where we could use the JS code shift to shift the JS files to TS files?
for now, it's not doable and not really in our plan. No.
Okay.
I mean, we could have something on the side, but not really implemented into the upgrade tool. I feel.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool.
If there's no more question, we can end this meeting.
Actually,
Oh, there's one more.
is there any breaking changes in regards with the file browser, with the media upload plugin?
In terms of breaking changes for the upload, that's what you asked?
Yes.
We will have some regarding one of the API that was exposed by the upload plugin, but it will be handled by a code mod. Like it's already done, I think. It was an API with the ease optimizable, of the upload service. But honestly, I don't think anybody was using that. But still, it's like the one breaking change that we have for now regarding the upload plugin. And if we have any coming, for now it's not planned, but if we have any, we will be sure. We'll make sure to have a code mod ready for that. And if we don't, to like alert the community. I think we have a list of all the breaking changes that we're doing and that we'll share eventually. So yeah.
Yeah. Part of the process for the beta test is, and validating that migration process, is to figure out if there's a unique use case that we don't have a code mods for, and that we can be made aware of it so we can get that built before everything goes out into stable. Cool. Anyone else got questions? Then I have one for you. Is there anything that you would be interested in seeing in the next V5 Strapi 5 committee call next month? B6 demo. JS. Cool. Well, if anything comes up, if you have any ideas, feel free to share them in the Discord channel and I'll pass them along to the team.
Thank you all.